When the old man died, the real truth about his 5 sons came to light, but what he left behind for the youngest changed everything. What was the secret that even his own children never knew? A short distance away from the city of Baghdad, there was a small village where an old man was spending the last days of his life. He was quiet, humble, yet full of wisdom. He had 5 sons. The eldest was Yusuf, a landowner by profession. Yusuf spent his days working hard in the fields, nurturing the land, and caring for the crops. But sometimes, as he fulfilled his duties towards his aging father, he would begin to feel restless. In his heart, he would wonder, when will this responsibility finally end? Each evening, Yusuf would return home exhausted from the fields, and his old father, Hakim, would silently observe his son's tired face. Hakim's heart was filled with endless love for his son, but he never said a word. He would simply lower his eyes and remain silent. With time, Hakim began to sense a change in Yusuf's behavior. He could tell Yusuf was feeling crushed beneath the weight of responsibilities, and perhaps he had begun to see his old father as a burden. Yusuf's cold attitude began to trouble Hakim deeply. He had wished to spend the final moments of his life in peace, but his son's indifference left him quietly heartbroken. One day, Hakim called Yusuf close and said, "Son, I know your burden has grown. Don't worry, I won't be staying with you much longer. In a few days, I'll go live with one of your brothers. Focus on your work and your life. Don't trouble yourself about me." Yusuf stood silent. A faint ripple of emotion passed through his heart, but no kind or pleading words reached his lips. A few days later, old Hakim left Yusuf's house and went to stay with his second son, Farouk, a successful businessman, wealthy and well-established. Hakim began living in Farouk's grand home, but Farouk's attitude was equally painful. To him, business came before everything else, and his wife, she ignored the old man entirely, not even taking the time to speak to him. Hakim sat quietly in a corner day after day, his heart aching with the sorrow of watching his son's love gradually fade. Yet he never voiced his pain. His days passed in silence and sadness. Then one day, influenced by his wife's words, Farouk said to his father, "Baba, you should help me with my business. That way, your presence here can also be useful." Hakim remained silent. His bent back, his frail hands, his tired body, all spoke the truth, that he was no longer capable of labor. But still, he didn't take offense. He knew. Farouk looked at him through the lens of responsibility, not love. All night long, the old father endured his silent pain, and his heart cried out in silent prayers. One evening, Farouk's wife, frustrated by the old man's presence, said coldly, "This old man is becoming a burden. He has other sons too. Why can't he go live with them? Why should we be the ones to bear this?" Farouk, lacking depth of character, responded without hesitation. He turned to his father and said, "Baba, if you feel uneasy here, that's all right. You can go stay with one of my other brothers. Maybe you'll be more comfortable there. And don't worry, I'll give you money for your treatment." These words struck Hakim like a dagger, not because of what was said, but because of how it was said, as if his presence was not valued, as if he were just a burden to be passed along. There was no love, no care in Farouk's words, only a convenient solution. So, Hakim quietly left Farouk's house and went to live with his third son, Usman. Usman was a hardworking farmer who spent his days laboring on the land. He respected his father, welcomed him with due honor, but he had little time. Usman was busy in the fields all day, and when he returned in the evenings, he would spend time with his wife and children. He never really noticed his father's illness or the deep sadness in the old man's heart. Each morning, before leaving for work, Usman's wife would seat their children beside Hakim and say, "Play with your grandfather until I finish my chores." But Hakim, frail and trembling from age and illness, would sit there in silent grief. Watching this, his heart would sink deeper into sorrow. In Usman's house, his health began to decline even further. Eventually, Hakim left that home too. And this time, he decided to go to his fourth son, Ahmad. Ahmad welcomed his father with smiles, appearing happy to receive him. But his happiness was not born from love, it was rooted in greed. Ahmad treated his father with respect. At first, he said warmly, "Baba, you will have no troubles here. I'll take good care of you." But as time passed, he discovered that the old man had no wealth to offer. And slowly, Ahmad too began to ignore his father. His wife treated Hakim as a burden, offering no care, no kindness. Instead, she began to complain constantly, seeing the old man as an obstacle in her daily routine. But was it really her fault? When even her husband had turned cold, Ahmad had become so consumed by his business that he stopped noticing his father's worsening condition altogether. And during this time, Hakim's health began to deteriorate rapidly, until one day, Ahmad finally said, "Baba, you can't stay here any longer. I don't have time to care for you constantly. You'll have to go somewhere else." These heartless words struck Hakim to the core. Wounded but silent, he decided to go to his last and youngest son Abdullah. Abdullah was the youngest of all, a poor man who earned his living through daily labor. Yet with his small earnings, he cared for his father. With whatever little money he earned, Abdullah would buy medicine for his father and try to manage the expenses of his modest home. His wife was an honest and sincere woman. She cared deeply for her father-in-law, understanding his illness and old age, and serving him with the same devotion one would show to their own parents. When old Hakim saw the love and respect in Abdullah and his wife's hearts, a quiet happiness returned to him. He would often raise his hands and pray for them, blessing them from the depths of his soul. Time passed, and Hakim began living peacefully and happily in the house of his youngest son. Love and tranquility had returned to his life, and he was thankful that at last, he had found the respect he had always deserved. But soon, his health worsened. His condition grew serious. Abdullah, seeing his father in such a state, was heartbroken. Often, he would break down in tears because he never saw his father as a burden. To him, his father was a figure of honor and love. There was a sea of respect in Abdullah's heart for his father, and he tried everything he could to ensure his father lacked for nothing in his final days. Abdullah's tears, his care, and his constant concern became a source of comfort and peace for the dying old man. One day, Hakim called Abdullah close, held his hand, and in a faint, trembling voice, said, "My son, my final days have come. My breaths are now numbered. But may Allah bless you always, and may your life be filled with happiness. The way you served me, the way you won my heart, I pray that your every hardship becomes ease." Abdullah, struggling to hold back his grief, replied, "Baba, may Allah never let you leave us. How will we live without you?" Hakim smiled gently. "My son, this is the path of truth. Everything in this world must perish, and I too must return to my Creator." Abdullah, in a broken voice, said, "Baba, are you pleased with me? I know I could not serve you the way you truly deserved. Even my wife, though sincere, may have fallen short in understanding your needs. But if there's anything in your heart, any complaint, grievance, or any pain may be, I beg you, please tell us, and lighten your soul." Hakim took a deep breath, and then said, "My son, there is one last thing I must say. It is a great trust, a final responsibility. Throughout my life, I tested all 5 of my sons, but in this test, only you proved worthy. After I'm gone, go to the old alley in Baghdad, find a man named Jabir. Tell him, Hakim has passed away, and he will give you a trust I left with him long ago." Hakim placed his trembling hand on Abdullah's shoulder and said, "That trust, whatever it is, belongs to you. Use it to build a better life for your wife and children. This will be my final gift to you. And remember, do not share it with your brothers, not a single coin." Hakim had left this world. His death fell upon Abdullah's heart like a thunderbolt. His eyes brimmed with tears, and a deep emptiness settled in his soul. His wife too broke down in grief, for she had truly cared for Hakim and served him with love and respect. Composing himself, Abdullah informed his brothers and invited them to attend the funeral. All the sons, those who had once seen their father as a burden, now gathered to lay him to rest. Abdullah, who had always been a man of integrity and love, told his brothers, "Before passing, Baba entrusted me with a final responsibility. I believe it must be a treasure of great value, but I wish to share it with all of you, even though Baba had left it only for me." The brothers, hearts still greedy, quickly replied, "Then go and collect it, Abdullah. And once you have it, divide it equally among us 5. Abdullah did as he had promised. He traveled to Baghdad and returned with the entrusted chest. But when he opened it, he was stunned. Inside were property papers to several shops in Baghdad's famous marketplace, jewels that had once belonged to their mother, and many gold coins. Despite being the rightful heir, Abdullah proved his honesty. He gave each brother his share and kept only his portion. Life began once again without the shelter of a father. But time, as always, revealed its truths. Only months later, one of the elder brothers failed miserably in business. Due to poor decisions and carelessness, he drowned in debt and was forced to sell his home. Another brother, once addicted to luxury and extravagance, was caught stealing. The judge sentenced him to prison. His name and reputation were destroyed. The rest fared no better. No matter what they touched, gold or business, everything turned to dust. All of this was the silent outcome of a father's unspoken sorrow, a father's curse. But Abdullah began a modest business in Baghdad. He would buy fine fabrics from Kufa and sell them in the city market. With time, his honesty, his father's prayers, and his tireless efforts brought him great success. He soon began to buy back the very shops his brothers had once owned and sold, and eventually, he became the sole owner of the entire market. The same brothers once proud and wealthy now came begging at his doorstep. Abdullah, being gentle and merciful, helped them. He never let anyone return empty-handed. His kindness was a reflection of the values his father had taught him. And then came the day when Abdullah bought a grand home in the finest area of Baghdad. He lived there with his wife and children, content and blessed. Even in that moment of prosperity, he remembered his father's teachings and prayers. Looking up one evening, he whispered, "Your prayers made me wealthy in Baghdad, but your absence has left me with sorrow. May Allah grant you the highest place in paradise." Dear friends, this story leaves us with 3 powerful lessons. It is the duty of parents to raise their children with wisdom and strong values so that one day, those very children become their strength in old age and face life with patience and wisdom. As sons or daughters, never see your parents as a burden because time never stands still. One day, you may find yourself in the same place where your parents once looked to you for love and attention. Treating your parents with love, honor, and care doesn't just bless your worldly life, but brings countless rewards in the hereafter. A father, no matter what his condition, is never a burden. His prayers are the greatest treasure you'll ever receive. If you found this story meaningful and wish to hear more such timeless tales with powerful morals, please subscribe to our channel, like the video, and share it with friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback means the world to us.